We're joined by Mr. Buck Dozier of the State Fair. Buck, if you would please introduce who you brought with you and then begin your budget presentation to the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the council, thank you for staying with us this evening and being a part of this. To my left is Ken Sanders, who is our assistant director. Also, Ken did most of our budget this year because our regular budget guy, Howell Towns, after 22 years and 4 months, retired. And to my right, we are honored to have for the first time here Laura Faust, who's our new CFO, who's doing a marvelous job, although she is brand new and has been thrown into the fire right during the budget hearing. So just a few comments to get us started this evening, and then I'll be glad to answer questions. You may be interested to know that the master plan is underway. There are two different phases of the master plan that you asked for. Both of them have begun. One of them I would think is about 40% done. The other one is about 20% done. Hopefully around the end of the year, give or take, the master plan will come back to you. There is a website set up for the master plan where you can keep up with the activities of both groups as they go about the community asking questions. Some of you have been asked and you'll be asked again. Many people in the neighborhood, they talk to our board, they talk to our staff. I think it'll be a comprehensive report coming back to you. The State Fair, as you remember, seems to be doing well. We do not run the State Fair anymore. The Tennessee Fair Association does. They report to our board meeting each month. They seem to have things going their way this time. They have longer to prepare this time than they've ever had before. So it seems to be that things are falling into place for them in September. The state legislation, which took place recently at the state level, you may want to ask more about that. I'll just say this about it. That was, from what we can tell, about the 10-day event, the state fair, not about the property out there, which would be called the state fairgrounds out there, as many people call it that. Now, our board in our last meeting this week has decided that we will be meeting with the Tennessee Association of Fair to get further clarification with the Department of Agriculture to find out exactly what the intent of that state legislation was. There's different views on actually what it does, what the impact would have on the state fair, whether it has any impact upon their use of our property, which they do now. All that's still in question, and we're looking at it as well. Our third race will take place this weekend. The first two races went extremely well. Population was up and the attendance was up. The number of car count was up enormously over the last few years, partly due to good marketing on the part of the racing community. The second, that there have been a number of racing venues that have been closed in northern Alabama, Tennessee, and Kentucky as well. So we have had the benefit of that, and so far they have as well. As you may know, the Neighborhood Advisory Group, which is a group that meets with Mr. Formosa and the racing community each month to see if there's any problems with the community. The racing community has insisted upon mufflers, and that has been a total different, the noise out there is totally different than it's ever been. One car coming down the straightaway, my office is on the glass there. I could not talk with anyone. Ken and I were talking today, and they were coming down the straightaway on practice, and we could talk. The mufflers have made a huge difference, and the community has said that. And so far, in the Impact Advisory Committee, there has been no complaints about the noise. There's going to be noise. There are race cars, but nothing like it used to be. And Mr. Formosa sends them home, literally sends them home if they violate that rule. The Flea Market is doing well, extremely well. Actually, I think we're up about 15% on almost all the categories. January and February, which normally are our slow months, were good to us because the weather was good. And weather determines a lot of what happens at the Expo Center out there. And so April is one of our second busiest month, and we had extremely good numbers at that time. The corporate sales side, which is the gun shows, the bead shows, the galactic shows, all those kind of things, we lost 17 events during the process when we were closing 3 different times. We lost about $280,000 worth of revenue during that time. We have sought diligently to get them back. We did get a few back. We're still working to get the others back. There are others who went ahead and signed long-term contracts with another venue somewhere else. At the same time, we're working to get new shows in. Today, there are 2 groups. One of them wants the entire grounds. It would mean over $100,000 in revenues for us if we could get that group in. And of course, one of the things that's helped that is things have stabilized right now considerably, and people are more interested in coming and signing contracts with us because of that. Our budget, we began to charge $5 in parking last July. We charged $4 for the flea market. We added $1 to that. We also began to charge for all events out there. And of course, that caused some consternation at the time, but most people admit that their attendance has not suffered at all. In fact, the opposite. All the shows, the gun show, for example, is a great example. Once a month, his attendance has gone up. So they're a little fussing about it, but we're still the cheapest in town. Only the zoo has $5 parking with us. And so we instituted that. We're about 25% ahead of our projections on that, which is very good. We also, in dealing with parking, this year, the State Fair, we're going to be in charge of parking. We're going to get the revenues from that, which is going to enhance our revenues in parking even more so, which has been a great boost to our budget. Equipment rental, we increased our rates in equipment rental. In terms of charging for chairs and tables and those kinds of things. Also, we increased our rates, which I wanted to do when I first got there, and then we started closing, and I couldn't raise rates, and when you're going to close a facility. So now that we stabilized, there was a study done. We didn't implement all of what they said, but we did implement some of their rate increases, which is going to further cut our losses. We project a loss, but I want to tell you, they used to project, when I got there, about $1 million a year or more. We've cut that considerably down, and hopefully that will continue to go down as we move through it this year. The only thing that affects us in so many ways is what I call the black cloud, what's going to happen out there for the future. And I'm sure that the master plan will bring you many options for you to consider at that time. But there is still a cloud over exactly how long and what will take place out there. I want to say, and previously speakers said the same thing, but our staff, is only 17 of us, has done an exceptional job. They thought they were going to lose their jobs 3 different times. If you talk to people who come out there with their shows and their promotions and so forth, know that we got one of the top staffs anywhere in being able to do customer service, and they do a marvelous job. And we have been able to keep that place afloat despite all of the uproar that is going on, and that has to do with staff. At this time, if you've got any brain waves left at all, we'll entertain questions. Hopefully we got a few left.
Oh, I don't know if this next councilman does, but Councilman Tiger, do you recognize?
The power of the gavel up there. They get awful brave when they got the gavel, don't they? Buck, thanks for being here. You mentioned the vendors that have gone elsewhere and signed. Where is your competition in the flea market business?
The competition in the flea market business is in Hendersonville. They've opened up a venue up there. It's okay. It's not doing anything great, my understanding. The other main venue, Councilman, that has taken some shows, I think, and the Civil War show was one of our big shows, and that went to Williamson County Expo Center out there. We found that these contiguous counties were offering tremendous rates, cut rates, to get them to leave us because didn't know what was going to happen. A few of them have signed long-term contracts and would like to come back to us, but they've signed long-term contracts and still want to know, are you going to be there 14, 15, 16, 17? So Williamson County and Hendersonville, Wilson has not done too much with it, and Rutherford either at this point.
Are those public or privately run venues?
Wilson is, Williamson is, I think it's a combination. I think they get some subsidy from that county, but it's private. And then Rutherford is private. There's I can't give you the name of the company, that's a flea market that does flea markets all over the United States. They came into Hendersonville and opened up in a kind of a warehouse type situation up there. It has not hurt us. It's not on the same day. And actually all categories in the flea market is up. Okay.
Probably it would be to your benefit, since we have quite a few new council members and the history of the Fairgrounds, flea market shows, and all the different state fair, all those different activities, to do a little position paper and get everybody up to speed. Certainly they all know the public vote and what the wishes of the majority of the community were. And then update that with, if racing statistics were available the last couple of years and whatnot, and if it's drawing better this year and what that means bottom line. And then even I probably would like to see the drawdown of your reserve fund to get us to this stage that we're now requiring a subsidy.
Be glad to do that. And your comment about talking to the council, once you finish the budget, I would like to invite 5, 10, 15 at a time to come out and listen to the fair story. There's so much misinformation out there. There's so much that has gone on over the last year or two that I don't think people have a very good understanding of the place. I didn't either, and as long as I sit up here all those years and people came before, I went out there thinking it was a fairgrounds. It is not a fairgrounds. It grew past that. It is an expo center. And to miss that conception of what that place really is would miss the point. We don't do the state fair anymore, but we have 3 businesses out there that totally operate differently. And if we ever get stabilized, the business model needs to change out there. Now, we're already changing a lot of it now that we've got some stability right now. But the way that we approach the 117 acres out there, in my judgment, needs to be thought of as an expo center, which is multi-purposed events rather than a state fair ground. So we'd like to explain all that to you at some point, and we will in a formal presentation.
Good. Crown Ford said you need to feed him, and then he'll be there. So, all right. Final question. You've been here a long time tonight. You've heard a lot of talk about advertising, sponsorships, naming rights, and whatnot. It would seem to me if any place would have some opportunities, there might be some opportunities, buildings and tracks and the Grand Fondo Grand Prix racetrack is a tremendous possibility. But you know what, we jokingly talk about that, but there are some opportunities, I think.
When we ran the state fair, we did have sponsorships. The racing community, the racing business has a number of sponsors. They are full of sponsors. The flea market is a little limited in that, but could be done. The facility, which, as I say a lot to people, the greatest thing about the place is 106 years old. The worst thing about the place, it's 106 years old. The facilities in a modern expo center, and we don't have a modern expo center, That is one of the ways that you build buildings, and especially, I'll give you an example, the equestrian community would love to come to Nashville. The walking horse industry would love to come to Nashville. I'm not putting words in their mouth, but you're going to need barns for horses when you have shows like that. There are opportunities for the Farm Bureau and the walking horse industries, different promoters and so forth, to build and name those kind of things after them. So we're right with you with it. Again, I must say this, that a lot of people won't do it right now because they don't know where if they're going to spend some money, and then we're not going to be there. So.
Well, when you talk about that, I looked around the room to see who I would pin the manure barn sponsorship on, but I don't want to offend any of my colleagues, so I'll pass.
I have no response to that, sir.
Councilman Tenpenny, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. The Fairgrounds, deep in my heart there. That's one place that, like you said, it's been there over 106 years. The first night flight, I believe, was at that Fairgrounds. Horse racing started at that Fairgrounds. They come from Indianapolis down to start racing cars at that Fairgrounds and at that Speedway. The Flea Market, I can remember as a young guy, my mom setting up and selling out of that Flea Market, Cascade Pool, just everything about that. And, we've got a diamond in the rough down there. It is centrally located in this city where you can get to it really quick and you can get out of there really quick. I think this is the first year we're asking for a subsidy for that property, isn't it?
Correct.
And wow, it's been going 3 times that it was going to close. We've asked for what, $250,000?
200.
$200,000. It's pretty amazing when you've had that cloud over your head down there, and it was rumored out to close 3 times, that's the only subsidies that we're asking for down there. One of my questions, Buck, is, has anything been talked about privatizing that property or leasing that property?
Not with me at all. Not at my level. Nobody has asked to lease it or to buy it.
That hadn't been discussed?
No, sir, not with me.
I'm thinking that maybe we may want to have some discussions about that here in the future to see where we're going with this Fairgrounds and what we're going to do with this property down there. I know we've got 2 proposals coming out in the is it the PDFs?
In the master plan?
In the master plans?
You'll have 2 reports. One is looking at more of the events and the type of shows and things that we do on the property. The other is looking more at the bigger picture of the neighborhood, the impact on the neighborhood, as well as the big picture of the use of the property.
Okay. And as far as studies that's going on down there, as far as the EDGE, and I think the other one is, what is it, the
CSL.
CSL? Can you elaborate a little bit about that and what that's incurred?
Well, so far, the CSL group, which is looking particularly at the events, has been interviewing staff, neighborhood council people, and are continuing to do that to get their input on the different things that go on there. The other group has just started. I do not have yet, they have not interviewed any of us at this point. I think in 2 weeks is our first meeting with that group, the EDGE group. But the group that is...
Who are they?
Excuse me?
Who is EDGE?
Oh, you want me to give the acronyms for EDGE? It's a group out of Minneapolis, I believe, that is doing the study. We had an RFP process, and they're the group that we were very impressed with and won that contract.
Okay. All right.
I'm sorry I can't give you the
And the other group is just like neighborhood associations that they go to, talk with neighbors in different parts of the community that affects the Tennessee State Fairground property?
It's across the board. They ask us for input on the neighborhood groups, that they're talking to each neighborhood group. They will eventually have public hearings for people to come to the fairgrounds for people who weren't invited to the specific meetings. Of course, staff was talked to. I assume that they are talking with some of you all, and they eventually will. I know they eventually will.
That was my next thing. If you talk to these folks, you think you could have them set something on our desk to let us know who they are, and if they will be coming to some of the neighborhood events, some of the neighborhood meetings, and things like that.
There are going to be opportunities held at the fairgrounds for public hearings for the neighborhoods to come, but they're meeting with the neighborhood groups individually to discuss their thoughts as a collective group. Okay.
And just a couple of more things. I know we lost some venues down there, and we lost some pretty good things that were going on at the fairgrounds. How many have you guys picked up for this year? How many more events have you?
Well, in the corporate sales, of course, we lost the state fair, so that's gone. Although the state fair still
resides at the property.
Resides out of the property. They give us $50,000 for that. On the corporate sales side, we lost 17 events in the last year and a half. We probably got 3 of those. We did get 3 of those back, and there are others would consider coming back once they know what's going to happen. But you remember, these guys have to sign contracts sometimes a year or 2 years out.
Exactly.
Because for many reasons, for their businesses. And so we're still on the backside now. On the corporate sales side, as again today, he's bringing stuff all the time. People are looking at us. There's a huge show that is national dealing with hunting. That this week is looking at us, and this other group is a camping, some kind of camping group. Oh no, I'm sorry. They wanted 4 stages. It's kind of like a mini CMA. They're looking to put 4 stages on the property, have an area for tents. We got some RV parking anyway. That was on my desk today, so we're going to be dealing with this guy to see if we can make this work.
And that's
so we're actively involved in bringing new shows at the same time.
And that's for the whole property.
He wants the whole property,
wow,
which would be over $100,000 in revenues for us, because he wants it for 4 days, and it would be over $100,000 in revenues for us.
Okay, and I'd just like to close by saying that little speedway down there, the first race this year, we had about 10 to 11,000 people there. The second race, even with Talladega racing going on, we still had probably around 6,000 people there. And with the CMA going on this weekend, we expect a huge crowd down at the Tennessee Speedway this weekend. And it just goes to show you, if you give that Tennessee State Fairgrounds property a chance and you really show what it can do, the sky's the limit with that property down there. You guys just keep trying and keep helping us the best you can. Thank you, Buck.
Thank you, sir.
Councilman Duvall, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Buck, you've had no discussions with any independent group that's made an offer, but there have been some discussions with the board, have there not? Where a group is offered to privatize a portion, maybe the racetrack or some other portion of the grounds. Are you not aware of that?
No, sir. Nobody has come to me since I've been there. In the 4th year, I've not talked with anyone.
And as far as you know, there's not been any type of proposal or discussions with anybody with the board?
No, sir. The board, we have, and I forgot to introduce one of our board members, and let me do that, Mr. John Clemens, who is one of our fine new board members. We have 2 new board members. But in answer to your specific question, if a board member has had a conversation, I'm not aware of it, and they certainly haven't brought it to a board meeting.
Okay. Thank you, Buck.
Sure.
Thank you. I don't have any other members in my queue at this time. Mr. Dozier, we do appreciate you being here and appreciate your patience waiting with us so long.
Thank you, waiting for us.
We are adjourned.